Let's now try to understand program.cs file in detail. This is the main file in minimal API project template. And if we start from top, it's a program class and it has a main method, which means it is a starting point of this application. And in the start, this is the comment I have added: create application builder for HTTP request pipelines and routes. So we are creating web application builder here, and after that we are adding service, which is authorization service, just to make sure that when we use to configure the middlewares, this service is available here for us. By default, we have that add authorization service available. Currently we are not using it anywhere because there is no authorization attribute here. You can see that on this endpoint. So we have that configured. Then again, next we are creating the app object, and this is web application object. Once the services are configured, we are creating that app object, and then on that we are calling couple of middlewares. First of all, HTTPS redirection. What it does is it makes sure that application is running on HTTPS instead of HTTP, which is required for our all production applications. So this comes by default with this template. Next, as I described previously, we are using use authorization middleware here, and then we have an array object with different types of weathers, and this is the main and only endpoint we have in this by default template, which is weather forecast endpoint, and it's iterating over the different types of weather summaries and returning the weather forecast object, which is a model class here in this template. So only three files are here in this template: program.cs file, weather forecast.cs, which is our model, and app settings.json. Next, let's try to rearrange that code a bit just to improve more clarity in the code. We don't need that object here, summaries object, because as when application start, that will keep in the memory because this is being called from within one endpoint, and we don't want this to stay in the memory. So let's move that one here in this endpoint. As soon as the request completes, it will be disposed. So that is one improvement. And also let's try to add a couple of more comments, creating app object. And instead of this comment, let's add configure couple of middlewares, creating app object, next configuring couple of middlewares, and we are good to add over endpoints. So this is the list of endpoints, and here what I want is a region, and I can name it endpoints, and I can close region here and region. So let's collapse that region. Awesome. Now the code is much clearer and cleaner. So we are creating builder, adding a couple of services, creating the app object, configuring middlewares, and we have list of endpoints at the end. Once everything is done, we are starting the application. Awesome. One more improvement we can do is we don't want our models to stay here in the root level. We can create a folder here. Let me add a new folder and we can name it models, and we can just move that one to the models. Okay. Let me open that one here. It will ask for the reference update. Let's do it. Reference updated. Now it's more clear and clean in terms of template. Only settings there and the program.cs file, which is the starting point of the application. Great. At the last, let's try to understand that endpoint. So we have couple of endpoint methods available. If I open the dropdown, we have map get, map delete, map post, map put, which means all different types of RESTful related endpoints we can expose using that app object here. So this is the only get endpoint. Let's try to run that application for once. So set as startup project, control F5. So we have that weather forecast endpoint running, and it is giving us date, temperature in Fahrenheit, and summary. One thing you might notice that we are setting only three properties: date, temperature in Celsius, and summary. Why we are getting four properties in the endpoint? We have temperature in Fahrenheit also coming And the answer is, if you go to the model, we have temperature F getting computed on the top of temperature in Celsius, which means we can expose the properties which are calculating its values based on the other properties in same model. So that is an interesting thing I just want to share with you guys. Next, indentation. Let's update that one as well. And the last thing of this video is that HTTP context object. So to play with the request different properties, we have that HTTP context injected with every type of request by default. And if I hover over, it says that encapsulate all HTTP specific information about an individual HTTP request, which means as soon as we have a hit on this endpoint, all the request related properties can be accessed from this object, which means if I call HTTP context dot, so we can see there are a couple of properties available for this object, like session, request service, user related properties, routing data, response, and all different types of authentication properties like get token, sign in, async, or sign out. And we will be using that authentication and authorization related functionality, so that object will be very handy. So for now, let me remove that one. So this is now much clear and cleaner approach, and I will be checking in that code to the repository later on. So that was all for this video. In case of any questions or queries, do ask me in the comments, and see you in the next one.